So we will be in the month of April looking at artists who have been inspired by poetry, since obviously there's a connection to National Poetry Month, and there have been quite a few. As I mentioned in our class yesterday, poetry and the visual arts have much in common. They have a similar process of creation, and visual artists throughout art history have been inspired by poetry. Waterhouse, as I mentioned, is an English painter, and he's most famous for his work done in the Pre-Raphaelite style. And I'm going to talk more about that shortly. He was born in 1849. No one is quite sure of the exact date of his birth, but some people think it was April 6th. And he died on February 10th, 1917. In the early days of his work, he worked in a more academic style, and he was heavily influenced by the work or the writings of the ancient Greeks and also Arthurian legend. So a lot of the images that he portrays in his work are based on Greek mythology and the myths of King Arthur and the like. He was born in Rome to English parents. They were both painters. And later in life, they moved back to London, where he enrolled in the Royal Academy of Art. He soon began exhibiting in all their summer exhibitions. He, again, as I mentioned before, he liked to show images of ancient Greece and also scenes from daily life. Many of his paintings are based on authors such as the ancient Greek authors, Greek and Roman, Homer and Ovid, and also British authors like Shakespeare, Tennyson, or Keats. Waterhouse's work is currently displayed at several major British art galleries, and the Royal Academy of Art organized a major retrospective of his work in 2009. Still nothing from Shirley. Okay. So he was very influenced by the artists in the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood, which included Dante Gabriel Rossetti, John Everett Milay, and William Holman Hunt. These artists were quite revolutionary in their day. They were famous decades before Waterhouse became of age, and they loved nature. They were breaking away from the academic tradition that they were brought up in, and they were quite revolutionary for their day. They wanted to depict more everyday life as opposed to working from the classic academic style that artists have been doing up until that point. They wanted to work out of doors, which was also unheard of in their time. And these were things that Waterhouse adopted in his work many decades later. He loved nature, he loved the ancient mythology and stories, but he loved putting the gods and goddesses in more natural everyday scenes. He would put them in togas, etc., but he would put them in scenes of daily activity, like in the kitchen or out in the garden, etc. And this was something that the Pre-Raphaelite made very popular. So Waterhouse was becoming quite famous in the 1870s. A painting that he did called Sleep and His Half Brother Death was exhibited at the Royal Academy summer exhibition. And this painting was such a success that it would be part of their exhibit, their annual exhibit every year until 1916. He went from strength to strength in the London art scene. His 1876 piece, After the Dance, being given the prime position in that year's summer exhibition. Perhaps due to his success, his paintings typically became larger and larger. Waterhouse became best known for subjects like The Lady of Shallot, a study of Elaine of Astolat, as talked about and depicted. Oh, thank you, Susan. So Shirley's having computer problems. Darn. As depicted in the 1832 poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. So this is such an interesting mythological story. Elaine of Astolat was visited by a curse. And I read many different versions of this curse, but my favorite is that, and no one knows why she was visited by this curse, but my favorite version of this curse is that she was not allowed to leave her room. She wasn't allowed to look out the window of her room. And I envision this room being in a tall tower in an ancient medieval castle. And she was only allowed to look at things through the reflections in a mirror. And one day she got so fed up with this curse that she just got up out of her chair and went and looked out the window. And poor stupid woman, who should she immediately see when she looked out the window but Lancelot? And he was so gorgeous, apparently, that she became immediately smitten, fell hopelessly in love, and just couldn't stand being trapped in this room any longer. So, defying the curse even further, she escaped, got in a boat, and tried to sail away to find Sir Lancelot. And guess what? That didn't work and didn't get her very far. And she ended up drowning in the lake. And this story captivated our artist, John William Waterhouse, so much that he too fell in love with this story and painted the Lady of Shallot, Elaine of Astolat, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And we're going to look at least one version of this painting. And oh, I want to read the verse to you from Tennyson's poem before we look at the painting. He had a thing for women dying in water. He did a whole series of paintings at the end of his life about Ophelia. You know who Ophelia was, I hope. Ophelia, just in case you don't know, Ophelia is in the play Hamlet by William Shakespeare, and she was hopelessly, fatally in love with Hamlet, who did not love her back. And in despair, she also drowned herself. But he never finished that series of paintings, unfortunately, because tragically he died before he could complete them. All right, so as the Lady of Shallot was sailing towards Camelot and certain death, she was sitting in the prow of her boat and she sang a lament. Her frozen body was found shortly afterwards by the knights and ladies of Camelot, one of whom is Lancelot, who prayed to God to have mercy on her soul. And from part 4 of Tennyson's poem, I'm going to read the following, because this is the part that inspired Waterhouse to do his painting. and down the river's dim expanse, like some bold seer in a trance. Seeing all his own mischance with glassy continents, did she look to Camelot. And at the closing of the day, she loosed the chain, and down she lay. The broad stream bore her far away, the Lady of Shallot. The poem is quite long, but I actually printed the whole thing out. You can find it online. It's double-sided. I invite you to read it during National Poetry Month. All right, so this is the power that poetry can have over visual artists. As I said, it inspired him to do not one, but 3 paintings. So anyone have anything they want to add about Waterhouse's life? I think it's so fascinating that, oh, we have a problem, Houston. I can't minimize the screen while I'm recording. Okay. I can get to images though. Here we go. I think it's kind of fascinating that he decided to adopt a style of art that was not part of the scene that he actually was part of at the stage that he was coming of age in. I'm going to share the screen now and show you, hopefully, the painting that he is most famous for. But I'm not seeing it. Okay. I'm going to stop the share, everyone, and try and find it.
The gutter people are here.
Again. Please remember to mute everyone.
Huh? Hold on a second. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm going to mute all. Okay, let's try again. I think it's going to work this time. Yes. Okay, here we go. So this is the image that made Mr. Waterhouse a household name. And again, it is in the Pre-Raphaelite style, very realistic, very romantic. The Pre-Raphaelites loved showing women in distress. Notice the candles in the prow of the boat, 2 of which apparently are not lit. It's kind of hard to see. The image for me is blurry, so I'm assuming it is a little bit blurry for you folks. But only one of the candles is lit, which shows that her death is imminent. And I'm assuming that as she goes further down the lake or river, that the 3rd candle will go out and she will be done, done, done. Lots of attention to detail. The Pre-Raphaelites were very famous for that. Their obvious love for nature, Waterhouse adopted that as well. Extraordinarily beautiful recreation of plant life. They loved bright colors, which was really unheard of at the time the Pre-Raphaelites came into being. And let me see if I can find So the Pre-Raphaelites, I believe, came into being in the 1840s, around that period of time, right around the time that Waterhouse was born. And again, they were very enamored of Greek and Roman mythology. Waterhouse added the whole layer of Arthurian legend to his work. A lot of pathos, bathos, and passion in this image. Anybody want to add their thoughts or responses to this painting? You can unmute at any time. Something in the chat?
The nature is beautiful.
Yes. What else? I agree on that one. Anyone not like this painting? Is anybody having a negative reaction?
No, it's very impressionistic.
Yes. So the Pre-Raphaelites were the kind of forefathers of Impressionism because they loved painting out of doors, which, if you remember, those of you who are veteran students of mine, the Impressionists really brought that into the fore. The whole idea of painting out of doors and using natural light in their work was started by the Pre-Raphaelites. That's where the Impressionists got the idea from.
His sense of perspective is pretty amazing, how it
Yes.
goes like the weeds in the front and it just heads on back.
Right. So the illusion of space, he's really got the Renaissance perspective thing down beautifully. Notice how the objects in the foreground are much, much bigger than the shapes in the back. Notice the way the colors in the foreground are so much brighter. As you recede back in space, the colors are getting grayer and duller. That's the way the illusion of space is created.
Liz,
Yes.
do you think you can make it a little smaller because it seems to be so pixelated?
How's that better?
Yeah, I would just love to see the blanket clearer.
Okay, I can make it even tinier.
Doesn't really help, but it's exquisite.
Yes, this is the problem with viewing internet images, unfortunately.
Yeah,
And do be aware of the fact that the color is distorted.
the details on the blanket, love it.
Yes, and Waterhouse was famous for his attention to detail. That was one of the reasons he was so popular. But there is, you see the vanishing point for this painting is probably right here at the tip of the tallest candle. Everything seems to recede back in space from both the left and right corner. It's very dramatic composition.
Beautiful, just beautiful.
All right, let's look at a couple more of his pictures. They're all pretty much in the same vein. I'm going to save my personal opinion about Pre-Raphaelite work till the end. I do have a rather strong opinion about it. Want to just open up a few more pictures. And then I'll start sharing. that one. No more communication from Shirley, Margot?
No, just that she's getting her brother to help her sort out her computer issues.
Okay, thanks.
He's completely off the computer right now, so I don't know when he can get over there.
Okay, aw, it's too bad. Again, this woman is obviously in ancient attire. I don't know what myth he's referring to in this imagery, but his love for beautiful women in romantic poses, a lot of natural detail. You can see every petal of every flower, every blade of grass. It's quite fabulous attention to detail. Again, pretty awesome perspective, receding back towards the horizon. It's really kind of fascinating, the diagonal horizon line that he has, because it really emphasizes the diagonal slant of her arm beautifully. The Pre-Raphaelites were also quite famous for their Caucasian flesh tones. They kind of, along with Rubens, they reveled in this pink flesh tone thingy. Notice the way the colors in the background recede, get grayer. There's less detail the further we get towards the horizon. And even though the trees, we know intellectually they must be giant compared to the flowers in the foreground, the flowers loom large. And the figure of the woman looms large, even though we know the trees are much bigger. That's how the Renaissance artists and artists ever after created this illusion of depth and space.
Liz, there
Yeah.
are no flowers in this picture.
What?
There are no flowers in this picture.
There are no flowers in this picture?
Not the one I'm looking at. It's a woman and a dark background. She's holding a shawl.
How interesting. Okay, I'm going to stop the share I'm looking at. Obviously, we're looking at two different pictures.
Yeah,
Bizarre.
that was crazy.
Yep. I think you were looking at this picture. This
Yes.
one?
Yep.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, so we'll look at the other picture I was looking at in a moment.
Okay.
There are definitely no flowers, but there are plants.
Yep. And her skin is very lovely.
Yes, but wait till you see the next one I'm going to show you. So this one
Okay.
is not very pink. Maybe
No.
this one is more Greek. She's more Semitic in ethnicity because she's not pink.
No, she's quite white.
I love the spool of yarn here. So maybe she's just gotten up. She's definitely, look, and here's the yarn. She's definitely been spinning. Love it. Maybe it's Ariadne, the goddess of spinning.
Could be.
Gorgeous, gorgeous detail. I love the tile work in the floor. of all the Waterhouse paintings I've been looking at lately, this might be one of my favorites. And I'll explain the reason why after we look at the next one. Let's look at the one I was just talking about. Let's see if I can finally bring this one up. Nope. Wow. That's kind of weird. Let's try again. I want this one. Okay. Perhaps what I have to do is put this one away. We'll try opening this one again. Here we go. Let's try this again. See this one now with flowers?
Lots of flowers,
And she's very pink.
very pink.
Okay,
Spe-
success, finally. Well, this to me is a very typical Pre-Raphaelite style painting because of the very rosy hues. This is fairly traditional Pre-Raphaelite, very kind of romantic, lovely, rosy female character. And all the details, all the natural details. The Pre-Raphaelites love this kind of setting. Out of doors, fantastic composition. Yeah.
The composition reminds me a little bit of Renoir.
Yes, well, you can see the natural path from the Pre-Raphaelites to Impressionism. I mean, it's Renoir must have loved these guys.
Yeah.
The color palette, everything, the love of nature and flowers and
women.
women. Although I think Waterhouse liked thin women, Renoir was more into voluptuous ladies.
Yes.
And for me, I am not a great fan of Pre-Raphaelite paintings. If I want to look at gorgeous, voluptuous women, I much prefer looking at Rubens.
Right.
Rubens, to me, where you can see the warts and the wrinkles and the true reality of the female form, not this idealized mythological portrayal. This to me is very saccharine, very, even with all their love of nature, I feel as if the Pre-Raphaelites were missing the point about female.
It's almost as if this belongs in a fairy tale book.
Right.
You know,
It's
an
more
illustration, an illustration for a fairy tale.
yes, it's very illustrative as opposed to, and here we are again with the question, what is art? And so much of it has to do with the standard of beauty at the time that the artist is working and what the aesthetic was of the community, of the culture and civilization in which the artist lived. And whether or not they were rebelling against it or adhering to the standards and the practice of the day. Would you like to see more? I have many, many images, or I feel like we're late. Let's go to work, shall we? Unless there's any serious objection, here are the assignments for today. You could go multiple different directions. I invited you each to bring a poem. If you have a poem that you think will inspire you to create a visual image, have at it, whether it's abstract, realistic, collage, painting, sketch, whatever moves you. That's one direction in which I would be happy to see you go. I would be ecstatic, in fact. The other assignment that I'd like to give you, and it's the way I'm going to go because I always feel rusty in my drawing skills. I'm going to put up an image of Misty Copeland and I'm going to draw a la the Pre-Raphaelite. I'm going to draw the female figure and practice my drawing skills. And I will keep the picture of Misty Copeland up for everyone to draw from. Those are your two options. The first option has many directions in which you can go. For those of you who want more structure, the second option is the way I would recommend you go. And for those of you who want more freedom in your work today, then really explore, experiment, use poetry to inspire you in your work. Any questions about our assignments for today? Cool. Cool. There are so many great poets. Yesterday in our class at the Multipurpose Center here in Hoboken, I read a poem by Louise Gluck. There's so many. Maya Angelou, Margot recommended yesterday. Please see John, I don't know, you name it. You can find a million. Shakespeare, the Psalms, Pat, you are some of the most beautiful poetry ever written. You can find in the Bible. Rumi, love the poetry of Rumi. I could go on and on about poetry.
Ferlinghetti, Nikki Giovanni.
Yes, Margot had Ferlinghetti's poems. Susan, you had that wonderful young poet who did the poem at President
Amanda
Biden's
Gorman.
inauguration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Amanda Gorman. Yeah.
Amanda Gorman, thank you. So try that. If you want to incorporate the words of the poem into your work, that's another direction you could go in. I think we have a lot of veteran artists in this group. Would you like me also to share the diagram of the proportions of the human figure before we begin? Anybody want to see that? Put your hand up, please. I'll give it a minute. Those of you who are sketching today, please use whatever media you feel comfortable with. I'm just going to use regular old number 2 pencil in my work. And Margot, if you get a distress call from Shirley, tell her to text me, okay? Because once I start drawing, I'm not going to be looking too much at my laptop screen. Or maybe let me text Shirley.
I haven't heard from her since her last communique about her brother.
Yeah, my guess is unfortunately she's had to give up. I was hoping Lauren was going to make it today. She sent me an email. Okay, let me put up the picture of Misty. And doesn't seem like people want the diagram of the human body. Everybody able to see Misty Copeland? And again, I've chosen her because her body is pretty extraordinary. Wish we could afford her to model for us. One thing that I would recommend to folks, if you are doing a sketch of Misty, I would try and create a frame. If you can, you might want to print out a picture of her, and you want to create a frame that touches the tips of her fingers so that you can start seeing the negative spaces around her figure. It will help you to draw the proportions correctly. And I chose this pose because it's pretty straightforward. I also want to invite people next week to bring a line from a poem that you might want to read in class. So here I go. I'm going to start with my gesture drawing as always, and I'm working large because that's my style. Ooh, it looks like somebody entered the waiting room. Not sure who that is. Doesn't look like Shirley. Welcome to whomever just entered. So we are celebrating National Poetry Month. April is National Poetry Month. We looked at the Pre-Raphaelite style paintings of John William Waterhouse, and I now have an image of the ballerina Misty Copeland on the screen because some of us are doing figure drawings because Waterhouse frequently did paintings of women, and many of us want to practice our figure drawing skills. If you don't want to do that project, I'm inviting people to find a poem that inspires them to create some kind of visual image, and the image can be an abstract, a collage, a realistic drawing or painting, whatever the poem moves you to create. And if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and ask. I don't know if I know who E is. If you are a brand new student, welcome. And we love having everybody, no matter what your skill level. If you've never drawn before, it's all good. If you're a veteran artist, you're absolutely welcome as well. And I hope you enjoy. All right, so I am starting out my figurative drawing with a very loose gesture drawing. I am using a number 2 pencil because it is very soft. And while I'm sharing screen, unfortunately, I can't spotlight myself, but I'm holding up my pencil so you can see it's just a regular number 2 pencil. And in gestural work, I like to keep my lines loose, so I will hold the pencil at the eraser end. It allows me to keep my arm loose and free. And in gestural work, I'm just trying to capture the gesture of her figure. Where is the weight of her body? Which leg is she leaning on? Where is her neck? How is her head tilted? What angle are her shoulders positioned? I try to do it quickly and loosely. My drawing will be more like a stick figure at this stage. Very loose and messy. It won't look like anything. One thing I like about drawing Misty is that her figure is muscular, and after I've completed the gestural work, it's very easy to figure out how to flesh out her torso and arms and legs because of the muscular quality of her body. Causes her a lot of problems in her professional life, unfortunately. But I think she's finally overcome those prejudices. Remember how we measure the figure and head lengths too. It will help you. This pose is simple, but it's got a lot of drama to it as well. The thrust of her hip is quite extreme. Okay, so I've completed the gestural work. Now I can see where I've made mistakes. So I'm going to go back and start making adjustments. Everybody makes mistakes. Mistakes are good. It's how we learn. So my lines at this point are getting a little bit darker. Still holding the pencil rather loosely. Having to enlarge my head because I've made her torso quite big, but that's okay. I've also made the head in the wrong position. I gotta find my giant eraser. Erasing the entire head. It's actually way more upright than I initially thought. Now I'm starting to work in the outlines of her leotard because that's going to help me figure out where her arms are located. Starting to move. This is completely subconscious too. I'm starting to move my grip on the pencil further towards the point because I need more control now. I definitely exaggerated the length of her torso, but I don't know. I like it. I'm going to leave it. I love the shadow in her belly here. Play around with that. Starting now to work with shadow. Probably difficult for you to see my drawing, but I prefer that you look at what you're creating anyway. But mine is still very pale. I have to run downstairs to get my graphite. Left it in a bag I was using yesterday. I shall return in a minute. Looks like everybody's deep into their work. Good. Okay, teacher back. Everybody good? Okay. Starting with graphite. For this drawing, I'm gonna really focus on the background because that black drapery is so gorgeous and dramatic. And it really emphasizes the pose. I think you may see my drawing emerge from the background rather than vice versa. The background is as much a component of your art as the foreground. It's really important to pay attention to what's going on behind as well as in front. I think this is the hardest concept that I try to teach. I'm not sure why, but most people don't like thinking about the background. I guess because it's hard enough thinking about what you're focusing on, object or person that you're trying to draw. So the background always seems to be an afterthought, but I would like to put out there that the background can be even more important than what you're actually drawing or painting or collaging. The background can make or break your image. So this black drapery is allowing me to really emphasize her figure. I'm loving it. quietly working on the background. perhaps see a little bit of what I've made. Along. Realizing that her head is still in the wrong place in my drawing, but I'm not going to stress about it. What we call artistic license. It's actually much lower than where I have it. And the head's a tiny bit too small. Time we have almost 20 minutes. Hope everyone's having fun. And it occurred to me, if you started with the Misty Copeland drawing, you could configure it into some kind of pre-Raphaelite thing. To position mine so you can see it better, but it ain't happening. It's okay. Some kind of strange lighting thing going on today. Oh, Stephanie, thank you for the article. Eternal importance of Raphael. Raphael the artist, or Raphael the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood? Two different things.
I believe it was Raphael, the artist.
Okay, cool. So Raphael the artist was
Mhm.
a Renaissance.
Right.
And the Pre-Raphaelites came a few centuries after. I don't know if they were influenced by Raphael. You would think so from the name.
Right.
Let me look. I have a lot of literature here on the Pre-Raphaelite.
This is from Mutual Art. So
Yeah.
the eternal importance of Raphael.
Raphaelite art was closely associated with the social, political, and economic changes of Victorian England. It was a response to the widespread industrialization that was sweeping across the UK. So it was a reaction to the suffering of the poor, and also for the beginning of people's loss of contact with nature. So the disconnection of people from nature. It was a secret society, and they aimed to create high quality art that expressed real ideas, that sympathized with the genuine, heartfelt aspects of historical artworks, without entertaining the superficial, vain, and conventional qualities of previous art from which they drew inspiration. And a large part of this goal was to portray nature as accurately and in as much detail as possible. And that's why they wanted to paint out of doors. And they were the first artist movement that included photographers. And even though I feel they portrayed women in a very sweet way. They often showed strong archetypal women taken from mythology. I love that they were a secret society.
Hmm.
They did not like stale stereotypes of women as chaste and incompetent, or mothers whose skills were useful only in the confines of the household.
Do you see where it says he had about 50 assistants?
Raphael, yeah. So,
That really struck me.
yes, now Raphael was a Renaissance painter, Stephanie,
Mhm. Yep.
and he was a contemporary of Leonardo and Michelangelo. Younger, I
Right.
think he was younger than they, but he worked way before the Pre-Raphaelite, way before the people that Waterhouse looked up to.
Gotcha. It's just so interesting that that appeared in my mailbox just a few minutes ago.
It is. It must be fate. Raphael's a good person. I know you love figurative art, so Raphael is somebody really good for you to study and look at closely because he was a brilliant figurative painter.
Right.
We have never focused on him. Maybe we will one day soon. Sorry, I minimized the share there for a minute. I'll bring it back up in a second. Want to just double check who our next artist is. I can't remember. Oh, it's going to be Milay. John Everett Milay. A Pre-Raphaelite. Up again. Now I've lost the chat box. So quite a few people have had to leave early today. So everybody who wants to share is going to have plenty of time.
Hi. What's up? I'm in a class. No, wait.
So 5 more minutes. Another interesting thing about the Pre-Raphaelites, they had an interesting technique of painting the whole background white first. It's called the wet white ground technique. A very thick layer of white paint was applied first, and then they would paint color over it while it was still wet. Which is probably how they got that glowing translucent quality to their skin tones. There was a member of our Hoboken Cooperative Gallery who used that technique in her work. She gave us a demonstration once in how she did it. It's very time consuming.
Mm.
Couple more minutes and then I'll tell you the name of our artist for next week and we'll share. All right, so our artist for next week is, and sorry for that abrupt cutoff there, but our artist for next week is John Milay. I'm going to put his name in the chat box. Well, now you can see my drawing better. For those of you who are interested, John Milay. And he was also a British artist and a member of the Pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood. And I've chosen him because he was influenced by Shakespeare's portrayal of Ophelia. And Shakespeare's rather poetic language about Ophelia. There we go.
Oops.
All right. I'm gonna let, so now we're up to sharing. I'm gonna let Stephanie go first today because Stephanie's had to leave early at various classes for important life reasons that we understand completely. So Stephanie, I'm gonna try and spotlight you for everyone. Here we go. Would you like to share today, Stephanie? Oh, wow. Look, this
Current events.
looks like a
This
Van
is,
Gogh.
it is, yeah. Uh-huh.
And did you say
Beautiful.
current events?
Yes, because of the invasion and all of that that's going on in the world.
Okay. And why did you?
To me, it looks like a soldier, but it's not. It's
Ah.
one of the field workers. He did a lot of sketching like that, many, many sketches.
Yes, this is a beautiful drawing.
Thank you.
Beautiful. All right.
Beautiful.
So inspired by current events. It's a great
Yep.
composition too, Stephanie.
Thank you.
I like how large the portrait is. I like your attention to detail also.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I
I'm
like
very
how
happy with it.
I like how you've created a frame without actually having a frame.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I
It's,
take a ruler before I start and I make a frame
oh, okay.
and then I stay within it.
But it's interesting that the eye and the right brain, the perception of our brain, will fill in the outline even when we can't see it. I love
Right.
that. I so love that.
Yeah, I like it a lot.
Great.
All right,
Thank you.
well done.
Thanks.
And Frances, you're next in line. Thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hello.
Ooh.
So
Wow.
Good.
I read a poem about women and the tides and the full moon. So
Gorgeous.
Would you be willing to read part of the poem, if not all?
yes.
Love
So
this
it's
image.
called As I Am a Woman. I balance on the beam of the full moon as it wanes, exulting in the fullness of my radiance, resting in the peace of my dark. I ride the white crest of the ocean waves, rising and falling with the cycle of the tides, celebrating the power. So then I just,
Poem, beautiful image.
I was
Beautiful.
trying to fill in the most I could to show,
Gorgeous.
but still will paint and try to.
Yeah,
Great.
it's very powerful with the dark and light contrast.
Mhm.
I want to see something a little dark, some shadow behind this organic image. Like I think it's a chrysanthemum, perhaps at the top. Not a lot, but some shading, not something heavy, but something, yeah.
To balance it a little
Yeah.
bit.
It's
It's
beautiful.
great.
It has a lot of feeling, Frances, too. How did the poem make you feel? Can you put it into words?
Well, I don't know. I was trying to find inspiration. I searched a few music lyrics that I like, but then when I found this poem, just it started like giving me ideas of womanhood and connection, and so it just like brought power, and I just started adding elements that I like and try to make it graphic because I also like a lot the contrast of between black and white. So this also to me is very powerful. So
I like a lot the kind of pokey things, the fingers, and then the sun, pokey sun, and the tips of the chrysanthemum, and the.
Mm,
I like that very much.
beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah. Send me the JPEG, please, when you're done. Wow, you guys are amaze me every time. Thank you, Frances. Esty, your turn. What you got today, Esty?
No
Oh, you
sound.
muted.
Oh, yeah, you're muted, Esty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very pre-Raphaelite.
Oh,
Look at
nice.
this.
Yeah. And then
Beautiful.
I did what I like to do best. I mean, but the mixture. So again, misty, but Esty misty.
Esty.
So
Oh, I
cute.
like this very much. Very,
Oh.
very, very much. It really, it's your
Beautiful.
personality, your style, beautiful colors. This is awesome.
Thanks.
Really nice. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. And Heather. Is Susan still here? Thank you, Esther.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so you'll be next. Wait, Heather, wait. I can't figure out how to spotlight you. Wait up, Heather.
I'd rather see Esty anyway.
Here we go. Oh, yay.
Oh,
Very nice.
beautiful. Lovely.
Great. It's
You
great.
could
I
feel
love,
the movement.
yeah, all the action in the background really emphasizes the movement of the figure.
Right.
It's beautiful. Heather.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Love it.
I like the simple, I like how you limited the palette to simple few colors. I like it.
Mhm.
Well done. Dynamic
you.
composition too. You're the best. Susan, where the heck are you? I don't see you. Here you are, Susan.
Really hard to see.
Oh,
Oh, great.
fantastic. Yeah, you really got into the drapery. I was tempted, and then for some reason, I lost interest in the drapery. Well done. Well done. No, well done. I would make it even darker.
Yes, I'm gonna do it with graphite.
Edges around the contour of her figure. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the pointed leg on
Yeah.
on my left.
The legs were hard, but you
Yeah.
know, I decided to challenge myself. Yeah.
Your
Yeah, and you
proportions
got the muscle
are
too.
spot on. Really,
Thank you.
really, really good.
Mhm.
Particularly the foreshortening on her right arm. You
Yeah,
got
that
it,
was
baby. You got
that
it.
was hard. Yeah.
You're a
Thank you.
little off in the same place. The head. There's something.
Yeah.
The position of the head. It's a little closer to her left shoulder. There-
Yeah.
I did not capture it either.
Yeah, that was difficult. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was hard. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
beautifully drawn.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you did so well technically today without your librarian.
Well,
Yeah.
she assisted me a
Yay.
lot last night. The fact that she emailed you all last night made it a whole lot easier because
Yes.
had she left it to me to email you all this morning, it would have been a huge mess. So kudos to Laura
Yes.
and to the Hoboken Library.
Mhm.
We still have 4 minutes. Is there anything you'd like to share or talk about? I know a few of us went to a fabulous exhibition. Heather, do you want to share what we saw?
Can't really because there are people in my apartment. So you're going to hear them talking as well.
Oh, so,
I'm
okay,
not alone.
I will talk about
I have to mute.
it. Okay. I'm going to talk about it because it was pretty incredible. I was lucky enough to go with Heather. She was kind enough to go with me, put up with me. We went to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and we were lucky enough to see the exhibit of a sculptor named Charles Ray, who for some reason, I feel like I might have known of his work way back in the 1960s when he was a young whippersnapper like me. But then he fell off my radar. I recommend this exhibition highly. He does monumental sculpture in a variety of media, including aluminum, everything from steel to clay to glass to aluminum. They are extraordinary. They are, for the most part, figurative, highly realistic, and they're just mind-blowing. They have quite a bit to do with race and race relations in this country, although that is not the main focus of his work. He happens to be white, and the main concept behind his work, I think, has a lot to do with scale and the relationship between humans and art, and the whole idea of what is art. I mean, I think he's fascinated by what makes something art. And yeah, and he has kind of, I don't want to say sense of humor, but he has a very unusual perspective on life, a very unusual way of looking at art and life that sometimes is subtle in his work, but is also kind of out there and hits you in the head. It's not so subtle, if that makes any sense. But we were lucky enough to go when there weren't a lot of people there. So it's in very large gallery spaces, and there's a lot of room to move around his work. You can see it from all different sides, and it's just breathtaking. We also got to see a small exhibit called the Afrofuturist Room, in which they show artifacts and artwork, art pieces made by contemporary artists, in which they celebrate Seneca Village, which was an area of Central Park that was completely destroyed when and pulled down when the founding fathers of Central Park decided they wanted to displace the Native American and African American people who are living on the land that later became Central Park. So it's an exhibit that pays homage to the African American settlers and Native American people who lived in that section of Central Park. And there's some really beautiful art by artists that we have talked about in this class. So I think that alone would be worth it for you to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art and see. So it is 12 o'clock. Next week, we will look at the art of John Milay, and we will continue to delve into the, shall I say, sisterhood, brotherhood of art and poetry, and celebrate April National Poetry Month. Thanks to you all for coming. I hope to see you back again next week. Art on, and enjoy the emerging spring rainy weather.
Thank you, Liz.
Thanks so much, Liz.
Thanks,
Bye,
Liz.
guys.
Take
Bye,
care.
Have
everybody.
fun. I
Bye.
really enjoyed. See you soon. Bye.
Bye.